Time now for 1 full hour of nitro-fueled NHRA talk. It's The Straight Line, presented by O'Reilly Auto Parts with Marty Huff and 10-time NHRA winner Doug Herbert. Brought to you by Hercules Tires. Now, here's your hosts, Doug and Marty.
This is The Straight Line on Drag Racing. Thanks for being here for our 1 hour of horsepower. Appreciate you being with us. The DSR train keeps rolling. Ron Capps takes 3 of 4 on the Eastern Swing, and Shawn Langdon earns his second straight. Eddie Krawiec had an interesting weekend, but a win solves a lot of problems. The burnout is complete, and we're set to launch another edition of The Straight Line. Wherever you may be, across the country, around the world, this is MRN.com, and you are watching and listening to The Straight Line. Along with 4-time IHRA Top Fuel champion, 10-time NHRA National Event winner Doug Herbert, I am Marty Huff, and getting through with the Eastern Swing, and man, it was a good one for DSR. These guys are really on a roll. Wanted to ask you, as a driver and a guy that's won a lot, when you're on a roll like that, and it seems like nothing can go wrong every time you step into a drag racing facility, that you probably have a better chance than anybody to win. What is that like?
That confidence level on not only the driver but the crew chief and the whole team is so high that you go somewhere and you believe we can win, we're going to win, and that really helps. Winning breeds more winning, so that really helps. I mean, when you get on that roll and you get that attitude, we're going to win, I got it down, and that's when things happen. So it's like that old Ray Everham deal, refuse to lose. You got the attitude like, we got this. Like, these guys might as well just pack their stuff up because we're winning. And it's hard to get to that level. It's easy to say. It's hard to get to that level where you know it. Like, we're winning this race. And when you have that, it's pretty good. But when it doesn't happen, when you have that attitude, it gets you down. So, boy, you got to pick yourself right back up.
Yeah. When you were at Englishtown and you were the Grand Marshal there, the Summer Nationals at Englishtown, you had the opportunity to catch up with Ron Tobler, and you've kind of had a chance to talk with him, and he was pretty confident then, and now we know why.
Well, I've been friends with Tobler for, 25 years or something, a long time. So Tobler and I are friends, and I said, man, you really got that car running good. You really got it. And he goes, Doug, we just have started getting it. He goes, I've got something that's going to be good. Once I start picking away at this thing, it's going to be good. And Tobler doesn't generally say that like that. Yeah. And so I knew that he's got something in the bank, because it'll take him 6 or 8 races to work out what he thought he had. Well, that was only 2 races ago, and they've done pretty good the last few races. So I'm thinking that everybody else is going to be a little bit tough because, honestly, Capps does as good a job as anybody driving the car. I mean, every once in a while you get forced back into a corner, and he'll pull out those telepathic lights just because as we were talking about, he's got that desire. Right. That desire. Nobody, when Forrest is in a zone, nobody, you can't beat him. He is in such a zone and so motivated, you can't beat him. But Capps does such a good job and is very consistent when that car runs the way that it's running. So consistent. Tobler's making all the right calls. Man, they're going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, Tony Schumacher was like that for a long time. Still is. And maybe not so much when he was dominating and winning championships. When he was just 75 lights.
When Alan Johnson was the crew chief on Tony's car, on that car. I mean, they went to every race, man. They were just tough. They were just tough to beat. And Alan would go up there, and the way Alan Johnson has always done it, he'll go up there and race the track. I think that we can go up there and run this on this track. And it didn't matter who was in the other lane, because I always thought that was funny when they were racing Karamessinis. And nothing against Karamasini, because he'll go down the track, he can run respectable.
Right. Sure.
But I thought, well, why would they go out there and run low ET when they're racing Karamasini's? And I asked Alan about that. He goes, I don't care who's in the other lane. We're going to go up there and run as good as we think we can run, period. Yeah. Like, wow, that's okay. Well, that's good. One of the clips that we show here on Straight Line, I think, is me racing Tony Schumacher and beating him. Alan Johnson was his crew chief, and that was at Chicago at his hometown track, and we whooped him. But we went up there for the final and just threw a shot, and I was that desire thing. I mean, I was ready to win. I got him on the starting line, and our car ran really, really good. It ran as good as you could possibly run. Schumacher ran as good. Alan ran as good as he thought that they could run, and we beat him. But that doesn't happen that often with those guys.
Yeah, and it works both ways with drivers and crew chiefs with drivers, because the driver knows that the crew chief's going to put a really good tune-up in it, but the crew chief also knows that if something happens to go wrong, that his driver is there, could pedal the car, can do something that may be able to save a round.
Well, and it's a lot the way the drivers and the crew chiefs communicate, too, because some crew chiefs or drivers and drivers will talk, and the crew chief will tell the guy, hey, we're close.
Yeah.
Be careful. Or,
yeah.
Hey, this guy's got us a little bit. We need everything you got on the starting line. So there's different things that can be said, and it's back to the old thing with Austin Coyle and John Force. I mean, Coyle knew what to say to Force to get the best out of him. And I'm sure when Force goes up to the starting line now and he pulls something out, he still thinks about that because he's pretty, I don't know the right word. I'm thinking historical, but it's not. What's the right word for, thinking back? He'll think about something that Austin Coyle told him 10 years ago that really motivated him, and he'll pull that out.
Yeah.
And that's, and I don't know that. Force hasn't told me that, but I'm guessing that's probably the case because he's motivated by certain things, and Coyle knew what those.
He knew just the buttons to push on him and knew to do it at the right times. Something we were talking about here just before the start of the show, and we'll talk to Eddie Krawiec a little bit later on in the program. Now, it's unusual, but it happens every once in a while where a motorcycle actually goes off into the gravel trap. And Eddie Krawiec did it not just once, he did it twice in 2 consecutive rounds. Now, we also saw Del Worsham do it at Norwalk. Norwalk is a little bit different place where once you hit that gravel, there isn't nets, to catch
Norwalk's a little bit of a problem. It backs up to a airport. So when you go off the end, before too long, you run right into the airport that's right next door. So Norwalk's a little bit of a tough place. And, I wondered how well Eddie Krawiec, I thought that he did very well, given the circumstances.
Yeah.
And you guys, normal listeners and viewers of the show, have seen the pictures of my dad's beast. The last time they ran the car, the bike, it went off the end of the track. And so that was a big part of the reason why, I had to get the thing, put it back together. And all that. But, so these things happen.
Right.
And I'm guessing Eddie's brakes probably were a lot better than those brakes on a 1947 model. Of course, they're going 200 miles an hour, and that bike was, only going 130 back in the day. But, man, that's not a good feeling, being on a bike.
I would imagine
your feet down going, whoa.
Yeah, and he actually was, trying to go Fred Flintstone and, dig his heels in. And, I mean, he's trying everything to get that thing to stop, knowing that that sand was coming. And I don't think he was really concerned about himself, but he was really concerned about the bike, knowing that, especially in the third round, knowing that he just won and that he was going to have to
get it back up the starting line.
Right.
I mean, you've only got an hour, basically about an hour, and you've got to be back up there running again. So
right, and this is going into the final round. Now you've all of a sudden switched. Instead of being the last,
you're the first.
You're the first as the bikes go, and so a real tough turnaround. We'll talk to Eddie about that. But also, just in general, and I know you've been there when you hit the chutes or something goes wrong. There's nothing there, and you see that thing coming. What is going through your head? I just can't imagine that.
It's a bad feeling. And luckily, I've only went off the end of the track a couple times, but I don't know, was that luck, or I always made sure and packed my own chutes. I checked things pretty carefully. I always bled my own brakes. I was kind of on top of that, but there's not that many things you can do. In a car, you can kind of go over and scrub the wall a little bit. On a bike, obviously, you're not going to want to do that.
No.
But the way that the NHRA preps the end of these racetracks, it's not sand. In the old days, it used to be sand. Now it's little pea gravel. So it's different than quicksand, but I mean, it really slows you down fast, where in the old days the sand would get kind of crusted over on the top, and you just kind of glide over the top of it. NHRA has really done a good job making sure that those pea gravel pits slow the cars, stop the cars and the bikes. And the one picture that I saw of Eddie's bike was like, wow, that thing. I mean,
buried.
You'd think that it would stop so fast that he would fly off the front of the thing,
Yep, and just enough to nose it in. And
or you could be like a drag boat guy and have a parachute on your back.
Oh,
the drag boat racers wear parachutes on their back.
No thanks.
Yeah.
No, I'll pass. As we mentioned, we'll talk to Eddie Krawiec about his interesting weekend. We'll also talk to Shawn Langdon, who has won 2 in a row in the Top Fuel category, but the man of the moment, 3 of 4, Ron Capps joins us next.
This is The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. More coming up right after this.
O'Reilly. If it's time to do some much-needed maintenance on your vehicle, stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store during Maintain and Save Days. Whether your car needs oil and a filter, antifreeze, new shocks, or a new battery, O'Reilly Auto Parts has the low prices on the parts you need to help you keep your vehicle running at its best. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Ready to take the training wheels off your race scanner? Go to fanvision.com and upgrade your experience with FanVision. Not only will you be able to hear the race,
Dale Earnhardt Jr. gets a good run, drafting help from Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. Jr. again pulls up alongside for the race lead.
you'll see every moment through live video, instant replays, live stats, and more.
Hi, I'm Jamie McMurray, driver of the #1 McDonald Chevrolet, and I never go to the track without my FanVision. So go to fanvision.com to rent or buy yours today.
Get all the reactions and latest word from the track immediately following each race weekend on MRN's Motorsports Monday with Woody Kane and Joey Meyer.
Johnny Sauter drives the #21 Chevrolet Silverado.
I didn't know that necessarily we'd win first race of the year.
Log on to MRN.com every Monday at noon Eastern or stream the program from the MRN Media Center on demand. It's MRN Motorsports Monday, only on the Motor Racing Network. Welcome back to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here's more with Marty Huff and Doug Herbert.
Thanks for being with us on The Straight Line. Back a couple of weeks ago, more than a couple of weeks ago, just before the Epping race, we had this guy on the show, and he went out the next week at Epping and won, and we took total credit for that win. So now he's gone on and won 3 of 4 during the Eastern Swing. And again, we're taking total credit of this recent run by the Napa guys. And it's driver joining us right now on the telephone line. He is Ron Capps. Thanks for joining us, and I'm glad we can help you out, Ron.
Yeah, it must have been that phone call to Ron Tobler you guys made, because you got him riled up.
I'll tell you what. When I talked to him in Englishtown, he said that he'd found something and he was going to pick on it. And then when we had you on the show last week or the week before, I'm like, oh boy, everybody's in trouble if he's found something.
Yeah, it's, we unloaded in Epping, like you said, and right off the bat, right out of the trailer was a track record and second quickest run in the history of the sport. So that was just the first run on that Friday, and we still had that night session to go. So it was fun. We left there, and I thought, man, this car is a completely different car. Even though we've had a great car up till then, he really worked at this clutch deal and some other parts and pieces that we had from DSR, and lo and behold, he hit it right on the money. It's been fun.
You've been around. You've been doing this for quite some time. 48 career wins. But if you go back into the history books, into the statistics, I don't think we can go back and pinpoint a stretch like this for you, not only with the 3 out of 4, but the #1 qualifiers. I mean, it's not like you're just kind of eking out these wins. You're really dominating in this car. But
Marty, you're wrong there. He's 48 in funny cars, but you're forgetting that Top Fuel win.
That's right. So we're eking up on 50 here, and we'll get to that here in just a minute. But just talk about the stretch that you've been in, because I don't think that there's anything been like it in your career.
No, and I've had some, unbelievable crew chiefs I've gotten to work with that were mentors, and driving for Donna Snake Prudhomme for 9 years and having Ed Diaz McCulloch as my crew chief with the Skoll car. And then before that, it was Roland Leong in the Copenhagen car. And we had a few stretches there where it was pretty stout. And I thought, man, I've got the best car I've ever had. And it was early in my career. And then again with the Ace, we had some stretches there, but nothing like the performance we've had here with this car. It's just been, you dream about having something underneath you this good for this many races, because there's times where you may run good for a couple races and then you get to some adverse conditions. It might be altitude change or grip change from one track to another where, you got high humidity and just something different. And it's the competitive nature of the funny cars, especially this year. It's just hard for somebody to go on a roll. And so it was cool in Epping. And then we left there and we went and won Englishtown. I thought, man, we really got something. And then we should have won Bristol. We went to semifinals. But then, of course, unloaded there in that last race in Norwalk, and same thing, completely different conditions. And Tobler's just once you get a hold of something, it's a great race car, but the performance level, taking all those qualifying points, fastest of the session, things like that, they just add up, and it's been it's been a dream for a race car driver.
Speaking of the little points, let's go back to Q3, where, again, you were quickest, but NHRA threw out the run. Can you explain what happened there?
Well, without going too much detail, we had burned the body, the side of the Napa decals, the big Napa on the side had been getting a little bit hot from the header flames.
Right.
And it happened in Englishtown. We made a little plate that we bolted and welded on the inside. All it was just a piece of plate, and it wasn't very big, maybe 4 inches, higher than the header. And it was just made to kind of guard a little bit and help keep from burning the decal off. On these Napa bodies they're painted on and cleared over, but instead of burning the clear off, we put another Napa decal over it. And if it burns out a little bit, then that's okay. It doesn't at least burn the body and the paint and the clear. So we ran them in Englishtown. We were laughing because it slowed down a little bit from what Tobler had thought it was going to run on that Saturday in qualifying, and so he didn't want to run them again. And so anyhow, I make the run. I get out. I'm looking back to tech guys. They're looking at him and laughing, and everybody's kind of having a joke. And it passed tech. So long story. We go to the next race. We don't run them again. Don Schumacher asked Ron to run them again in Norwalk on Saturday. So we did the same thing on Q3, and we were the only 3-second run, 397, and the next closest was a 4 flat. And for some reason, NHRA claimed that we didn't have them on in Englishtown, which made me laugh because I said, all you got to do is go to my Facebook page and look at the pictures, which I ended up re-putting them back up so that they should see that we ran them, and they passed tech. And they just, for some reason, claimed that they thought it was an aerodynamic advantage, which is ludicrous. But it is what it is. And I actually thanked them at the other end. I said, thanks, because actually the car runs slower with them on there. And so you actually did Tobler a favor. But, Don Schumacher was just trying to help out the fact that it was burning the decals off, and that is what it is.
Well, at least if Don made the decision, then nobody can get mad about that, right? Nobody can get pissed at Don for that.
I know, and that was the whole thing. I told them down at the other end of the track. I said, "You guys, Don Schumacher asked Ron to run them. They actually slowed the car down, even though we were quickest of the round. So that really, it sort of pissed off Tobler, and we went back up for Q4, and we went 395, and we're I think 300s quicker than anybody else, and that was in the dead heat of the day. So I think he was showing NHRA, hey, here you go. This is what happens when we don't run them. So they are not an advantage. And he was bummed we lost those 3 points. But the part that bummed me out was the streak of 8 runs in the 3-second zone is what we did. And them taking that run away, technically it's 7 runs, even though we did run a 3-second run on that run.
Yeah, so it's still all 3-second runs. And that was what was impressive to me, is that car just goes up there and cranks out 3-second runs like nothing.
I'm telling you, Doug, I'm in the car, and it's hot out. It's humid. I know how the track's almost 140-degree track temperature. And when it leaves the starting line and the clutch starts coming in, it just plants me in the trunk, and I'm thinking, there's no way it's going to stick. and it does. And then I hear him on the radio say 397 or 395, and it baffles me in the car because you just don't expect the car to have those incremental numbers in that warm of conditions with the hot rubber on the track and the decrease in the grip, and just it's shocking for other people, man. It's more shocking for me as a driver.
Now you get a weekend off. Now, most times I think you would be glad to have a weekend off, but maybe not this weekend. I mean, you really you want to take advantage of this as much as possible, right?
Yeah, you're so right. This is the one time I went, man, I'm sort of bummed, but I am. It's really made me excited to go to the next race, and then the next race, and then the next race. I mean, the last four, I could not wait to get to the track on Friday for qualifying. So it's going to be a nice weekend off. It's the first day I've actually just left the swimming pool here by our house and left my son Caden over there. I'm going to go back over and hang out, and just it's nice to spend some time this weekend at home, and we got another pretty good stretch coming up. So I'm one thing that we've come close and never done is the West Coast swing and sweeping that. And there's hasn't been a whole lot of teams that have done that in the past. So hoping we can get a win in Denver and try to carry it through.
Yeah, that would be something. Well, and you guys know how to win, and Tobler knows how to win in Denver as well. So one thing that I thought was really big, Ron, is this 49th career win. You tied Prudhomme, 11th on the all-time win list.
Right.
That's big, man. That's really big.
Oh my
that's
gosh.
a lot.
Yeah, that's you win the race and you're ecstatic down at the other end, and then they pull that stat out while you're on TV, and I really had no idea. I just don't picture me even being mentioned with some of these guys in wins. And when they said it tied Don Prudhomme, and you and I know there was a lot of races, Snake and those guys back in the day won that weren't necessarily national events or NHRA races. Right. They spent their time traveling the world, racing every night of the week pretty much. But as national event wins, and as bad as an hombre as Snake was back in the 70s and 80s, as many races he won, it's pretty elite company to be mentioned in the same breath as those guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and along with that, the wins are great, and this is something that you can be able to take back to the Don Schumacher shops back in Indianapolis and all. But Snake, as you mentioned, was a mentor. You worked with him. I mean, he was probably the biggest inspiration to get your career going, and to catch him like that, it's got to be something that's first of all, you probably never thought you could, and when you did, I mean, what are you thinking?
Again, it's crazy. He lives near me, and we trade text messages quite often. He's always at the IndyCar races, and he'll zap me a text here and there, but I'll have to give him a call. I'm sure he's got something pretty clever and funny he's going to tell me, but it probably won't be for radio. But
right.
But yeah, it's just a hero of mine growing up. It's pretty crazy to even think you come close to somebody like that and wins. And that just tells you the teams I've worked for and driven for, and the crew chiefs I've driven for. And Tobler and I forgot what he said the other day. I asked him how many we had together, and he whatever the number is pretty amazing. And just since 2012 we've been together. So, we've had a great race car. They've worked really, really hard on helping me drive it in the off season, because we had a good car at the end of the year. We ran right with the national record, and we actually held it for a little while on Sunday at Pomona at the end of the year. And so we've had the performance. It's just they've worked real hard on making a complete race car and helping me drive it and get it to the finish line, unlike some of these other guys. They're having a lot of issues. So we can just try to keep it going. We know it won't last, but, ride the wave when we can.
Ron, how about the Napa guys? They've got to be just tickled pink with the performance and the amount of exposure that you're getting right now nationally, and then you go in and do a lot of stuff at the Napa distributors and the Napa stores in the areas of all the races too.
Yeah, and this is the time of year they start booking up appearances where I don't have any more free weekends, and it's sort of that way already. But here this last couple of weeks, there's been a lot more phone calls that Paul Meck has gotten to book my appearances. And but the funny part is, the Indy 500 win, but the text messages from the president and vice president and the guy that head of motorsports all almost had the same word. It was unbelievable in the text on Sunday night that I got. The one guy he wrote, "I'm shaking my head. You guys are unbelievable right now." So to hear that from a sponsor, that's a pretty cool thing. And, there's only one more track in the circuit that I haven't won at as a driver, and that's Maple Grove now. Norwalk was one of them. So,
wow,
man, it's been a dream year already. But nothing would be better than to be able to win Indy and, of course, concentrate on a championship at the end of the year.
You're also very business savvy and what it takes to get a car up and down the road behind the scenes. The Fox TV numbers have been very impressive and off the charts what they have been over the last 5 years or so. What are you hearing from the people over on the Napa side and also just kind of in business in general about how things are going as far as the TV numbers are concerned and what it means for exposure for big business?
Well, I know the last race they just came to, they were really, really pumped about the TV stuff and about next year and coming up with new commercials again and getting them going. They just weren't sure what was going to happen in the transition this year. So, yeah, they are very excited. They know what the numbers are. And you know, this last week, and I started writing on my plane ride home, I started typing this thing up. I might put it up on my Facebook or something. But a lot of people were really down on the fact that FS1 didn't carry it because of Copa, the big soccer event. And they moved it to Fox Sports 2, yet they put us on live in the middle of the day Sunday with live first and second round, which was pretty neat. But I'll tell you, man, I don't, considering the network we had before and what we had going on, I would more than love to follow a soccer match like they had the other night and have drag racing start and have the coverage of the people that are with the TV still on to follow some event like that once in a while. Because we're sharing on Fox Sports, we're sharing some pretty cool stuff. NASCAR this up till now, and UFC and Supercross at the beginning of the year, and the soccer game was unbelievable the other night. And the worldwide coverage, even though it lingered on a little long, can you imagine how many people watched drag racing for the first time worldwide? Yep. So I know it might happen once in a while, and they might move around like that, but I don't see it as a bad thing. I really don't. I think they've done a great job, and I just see it getting better and better.
Yeah, getting new fans and bringing them in from a whole nother sports world
no doubt.
Is never going to be a bad thing. Ron Capps, thanks for joining us, man. Congratulations winning last week in Norwalk, and we'll be looking forward to talking to you again pretty soon, I'm guessing.
So I got the straight line mojo at least another 3 races, right?
That's what we're saying.
It'll get me through Denver, and then we'll talk again, hopefully.
All right, man. Thanks a lot for your time. We appreciate it.
You got it. See you guys.
Winner of 3 in a row, and this was the last national event at Norwalk, and that is Ron Capps, driver of the Napa Dodge. And when we return, we will talk 2 wheels. Eddie Krawiec will join us next.
This is The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. We'll have more for you right after this.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there, whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, right on our strength.
Ever wish your kid came with an instruction manual? I'm behavioral therapist James Lehman, and I'll show you how to change your child's behavior now with the Total Transformation, the program that helps stop defiance, backtalking, lying, acting out in school, even problems with ADD and ADHD. There's no screaming, no fighting, no frustration. Your child will listen to you again. I guarantee it.
Change your child's behavior now with the Total Transformation. Call now. 1-800-406-2945. 1-800-406-2945.
Need to sell your used vocational and highway equipment, regardless of type and condition? Then Housby is your single source to manage all aspects of the sales process. We can sell your equipment immediately during one of our twice-monthly auctions, either from where it sits or from one of our nationwide sales locations. You make the choice. Housby has buyers who are looking for what you have to sell and will pay you 10 days after the sale, period. Nothing to sell but looking to buy? Check out what we have today at Housby.com.
You're listening to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Now it's back to Marty Huff and Doug Herbert.
Big thanks to Ron Capps for joining us on The Straight Line. And right now on the telephone line is the driver of the Vance & Hines Harley-Davidson Screaming Eagle V-Rod, 3-time Pro Stock Bike champion and winner this weekend at Summit Racing Equipment Motorsports Park. Eddie Krawiec joins us. Eddie, congratulations on the win. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. As always, good to be on.
Well, Eddie, you didn't back into this one again, low ET and top speed, and then you even had to pull the thing out of the sandbox or the pebble box or whatever down there. Tell us about the wild ride you had in the semis and the finals.
Yeah, it was definitely an unusual weekend. Made for great memories, though. I'll tell you that.
Right.
You know, I'd never have gone out in the sand pit there ever before, and on anything for that matter.
Really?
Car or motorcycle, but you know, this time was kind of weird. I went through the finish line, grabbed a handful of brake, and you know, had brakes for about, I don't know, the first few hundred feet, and then next thing you knew, no brakes. Well, tried pumping them, tried getting them to recover, nothing, and well, as I mentioned, you sort of go into like, okay, survival mode. How am I going to get this thing into that sand trap without wrecking it? Because I knew I had a wind light. I knew I was going to the next round, but it was how am I going to ensure I'm going to make it back for the final? And, well, to be honest with you, I just pulled in the clutch, shut the motor off, squeezed the bike as hard as I could with my legs, tightened my arms up as hard as I could, and went in there. I was probably doing, I don't know, 50 miles an hour, but, you know, 50 or 100 or 200. I don't care. It's a little nerve-wracking when you're rolling up on that sand and you know you're going in there. You know, went back, thought we had everything fixed, put new brake pads in there, bled the fluid out, did a couple little things, and, well, lo and behold, I go to grab the brakes after I get my wind light. I'm kind of excited. I didn't get a chance to celebrate. I'm like, I'm pulling the lever, and I'm like, oh, man, not again. And rolled right out, and, you know, didn't sink it in there too far. I let the clutch out on the engine that time and sort of let it do a little engine braking for me. But, you know, at the end of the day, I was all good. Bike's safe. Everything's good. And moving on, getting ready for Chicago.
After E3, after the semifinals, obviously it's a quick turnaround for you guys because the format changes where you're first in the finals, where in the previous three, you're last in the pro divisions. So what are you thinking when I mean, obviously you're bringing this thing back and it's full of pea gravel. You've got to really get going on this.
Man, I'll tell you, I looked at the bike after we pulled it out. I had the safety safari guys came over, did a great job helping me, and I was just like, first thing I was concerned with, don't grab the wheelie bars, because if you grab the wheelie bars and something's bent, I don't want to screw anything else up. So just pick it up by the foot pegs and get it out. I go to the scales, not like I needed to, you know, but so we go to the scales. A bike rolls across, it's like 25, 30 pounds heavy, and well, so then I knew how much I had to remove. So we went back to the pits. Luckily, you know, we had our engine guy, Blake Ritter's there helping out Greg Underdahl, and Greg Underdahl came over, and a couple other guys from around the pits came over and really helped us thrash. You know, we got back, we lifted the bike up, took all this pea gravel out, and man, I'll tell you what, to this day, I got here this morning, and all my guys thought it was funny. They filled up some cups of pea gravel.
Oh, boy.
Because after the final, I refilled the bike back up. You know, so they gave me some cups and all that of pea gravel, and everybody's joking around, you know. And our company has about 400 employees in it, and I've probably heard from about 100 of them so far, all of them cracking jokes. So it's like, yeah, it's jokes on me. But you know what? At the end of the day, I got a wallet.
Yep.
And
that's right.
That's what was the most important thing. And what I'm going to do with that, Wally, is actually take some glue, smear it around the base, and pour all the gravel on it. Because what better way to celebrate it than that?
Yeah. Like you said, you're making memories out of that, and you'll never forget that one, especially when you look at it. You'll know exactly which one that is.
Yeah, you're right.
Hey, in the final, you went up there and you had an 019 light against Andrew, and Andrew had an identical 019 light, which was your best light of the day. So it seems like when you guys race each other is also when you dig down the deepest and you pull out the best because you know what the other guy has.
Yeah, we race each other, and we usually do that. And honestly, when there's two Harleys in the final, win, lose, or draw, you're going to go after it as hard as you can because no matter what happens, we're both coming out winners out of that deal. And, you know, I usually don't race like that and try to kill the tree, but the class nowadays at Englishtown, I I just talked about this the other day. At Englishtown, I was 30s every lap in eliminations, and I went home in a semi. Had I been 20, I would have won.
Yep.
So that tells me you need to step up your game, and that's what I'm trying to do. I was 30s, and then I went into the 20s in the semis, and then I went into the teens for the final. And really, with the level of competition, that's like the way you got to ride. And I think if you're not on your game most of the time, you're going to either go home early or you're going to have a lucky round.
Yeah. And, hey, Eddie, before you came to Norwalk, I was up there at the Harley-Davidson Museum in Milwaukee and saw you and Andrew. That was pretty cool. What did you think? You got to spend more time there at the museum than I did. What did you think about that place? It's amazing.
Oh, I think anybody that's into not just motorcycle drag racing, because, when you think of Harley-Davidson, you're going to think of motorcycles, but drag racing in general, it's really a cool little collection of nostalgia. I guess is probably the best way to say it. I enjoy a lot of that stuff because, to be honest, there's so much history and there's so much creative energy and juices flowing from years ago. When you look at some of those bikes, your father's bike, for a perfect example, you look at that and you look at how all these little things that they did years ago, and it transfers over in one way or another into our new technology. It's just a much cleaner way of doing it. I mean, back in the day, these guys used hammer and chisel and whatever would really make it work.
Yeah, they were butchers, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an awesome exhibit, and I encourage anybody that's into drag racing in general, if they're up in the Northwest area, man, they ought to go check that out.
Yeah, we had David Kreidler, the executor of the museum up there, on just before that week, and he kind of described drag racing and the motorcycle culture as kind of being a bit of overlapping, being kind of the same crowd, and that was one of the reasons why they wanted to do a drag racing exhibit. But also with your experience as being one of the guys that has run Englishtown, I guess that you would probably equate the same thing, that the motorcycle culture and the drag racing people are kind of one and the same.
Yeah, I would agree, and it's just cool. It's anytime you get to look at some of that old stuff, unrestored, makes it even that much nicer.
Yeah.
A lot of the things as history goes, as time goes on, they have these motorcycles, and everybody keeps updating them, or you have your car and you keep updating them. But when you go back and you look at your first generation pictures, you're going to look at that thing and say, man, how crude was that? Look at what I did. I can't believe that. And then you have this beautiful piece in front of you. So you lose a lot of that nostalgia side of it. But, there's a lot of things that are preserved, and a lot of guys are, there's guys that do restorations now actually to make it look bad before they make it look good. So kind of neat. Definitely awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Eddie, one of the things that we talked to you about is you're in charge of the dyno program for the Suzuki stuff over at Vance and Hines. Tell us a little bit about that, and you guys are really involved with not just your own program, but the whole category of pro stock motorcycles.
Yeah, not just our Harley-Davidson stuff. Andrew and Matt pretty much spearhead that at all times, and I'm involved with our guy Blake Ritter and a few other people that do our Suzuki engine program. And I'm the lead guy on it, handle that. And not just Suzuki engine program, but we do a lot of work, cylinder heads for hundreds of motorcycles a year. We're up in that area of about 500 cylinder heads a year for customers that we've been doing, and it ranges from Hayabusas to sport bikes to anything. But these Suzuki guys, they're definitely Jerry's not making it easy on anybody. He's proven that he has great horsepower because me and him, to run him and beat him on a whole shot by a few thousand, is a great deal, and he is a great competitor. But there's a lot of guys out there racing with that equipment, and when you're competing against people that what they have, it makes it that much harder because when you look at him, L.E., Jimmy Underdahl, all these guys out there that are racing with fast equipment, it's just a matter of getting it right, and it's a matter of time. And we're proud to be part of the class, not just racing in it, but also as an engine builder and part of let's just say the foundation of it. It's great to do, and it's something we enjoy. Terry and Byron did that years ago because they felt the class needed it in order to grow. And ever since then, they've made a great business out of it.
You're talking about growing the class, and right now there's no more competitive pro class right now than the bikes. I mean, we're talking about 1 to 15 separated by right around 400 points, and I don't think any division can say that. A couple of years ago, it wasn't that so much. You and Andrew were kind of the Greg Anderson, Jason Lyon of right now. Just kind of tell us what that's like to be, what those guys are when you're showing up to just about every national event and you're winning. It's a great feeling, but also you know that maybe it's not the best thing for the class at the particular moment.
No, it's good and bad. You're absolutely right. It's good for you. It's bad for the class. And, in the long run, to be a part of this pro stock motorcycle class right now is great.
Yeah.
What makes it even better is we've had somewhere between, let's just say, 22 and 32 bikes at most of the races.
Yes.
Most of them, we're averaging around 26 bikes at just about every race.
Right.
And when you have 26 bikes roll in the park, I'm going to guarantee you there's 20 of them that are top-notch bikes that guaranteed will qualify at any event. So when you have that many motorcycles, you're guaranteed there's at least 4 to 6 people that are going home that weekend that should be racing on race day.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. So I don't take it for granted. You can screw up any qualifying run and mess up. My goal when I leave, yes, I want to win the race, but first thing you have to do is qualify.
Yeah.
So my goal is when I get there is just knock out a solid lap the first session. And when you do that, then you can focus on the rest of your program. But, our class right now, the health of it and everything is just, it's great. Yes, I've been fortunate to win 3 of these races and been in 4 finals, and my teammate won 1 of them. So, when you look at that, it's really good. But when you look at how we got there and how we accomplished it, it's not by a landslide. The Greg and Jason, those guys, I respect it. They busted their butt. They figured it out. And that's what happens when you have new combinations. NHRA should have been fully aware of that. There could be 1 team that dominates. There could be 3. But anytime you change the rules like that, you never know.
Hey, one of the biggest questions that we had, Eddie, at the beginning of the year was, are the bikes going to hit 200 miles an hour? And you guys are still hovering right around there, but nobody's got it yet. Do you foresee that happening this year sometime?
It's really hard. Reading or, I do say Sonoma because Sonoma, you never know. But honestly, I think it's probably out of reach. Charlotte could be somewhat of a possibility, if you had that tailwind and you had perfect conditions. But it's really, I think we're still a little ways off. We're definitely a ways off from doing it naturally. So we need Mother Nature's help, being really good air and probably a tailwind to make that happen. I don't know, but I'd like to be the guy to say I've done it. I have done it unofficially, but I haven't done it officially. I would like to be the guy that does that, along with everybody else on a pro stock motorcycle, because it's going to be the last milestone to really break.
Yep, no kidding. Well, Eddie Krawiec, congratulations on your win last week, and we'll look forward to talking to you coming up here real soon.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, and as always, good talking to you.
3-time Pro Stock Bike Champion Eddie Krawiec joining us on the Straight Line. And when we return, got us 1, 2 in a row in the Top Fuel class. Shawn Langdon will join us next.
You're listening to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. More right after this.
O'Reilly.
If your AC is blowing hot air, let O'Reilly Auto Parts help bring back the cool this summer. While you may need to eventually service your AC unit, get immediate relief with Interdynamics R134A refrigerant with leak sealer. Buy 2, get 1 free at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Live sports are the one true reality entertainment, where a single dramatic moment can become timeless.
In NASCAR, Motor Racing Network's live broadcast elevates your senses to the sights, sounds, and struggles taking place on the racetrack.
Keselowski to the bottom of the racetrack. He tries to slide up. Newman is there. Sideways is Keselowski.
The power of radio to the imagination of the listener. Tune in to the Motor Racing Network. Visit MRN.com for an affiliate list in your local area.
Motor Racing Network, glad to have you aboard for our coverage of practice, something we will be doing all throughout the year.
They are pretty close in practice.
You said you learned a lot in practice.
We can have a good, clean practice. How many teams are going to opt out of practice?
Get this practice session underway.
As we close out practice. What are we talking about? Practice? We're talking about practice, man.
We are talking practice. Sprint Cup Series practice on the Motor Racing Network. Join us all season long on MRN.com and the MRN app. It's The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Now here's Marty Huff and Doug Herbert.
Thanks for joining us on The Straight Line, and joining us right now on the telephone line is driver of the Red Fuel by Schumacher dragster, 2013 Top Fuel champion, and last week a winner at Norwalk. Shawn Langdon joins us. Shawn, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time, and congratulations on 2 in a row, man.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it's tough just getting 2 round wins, but getting 2 race wins, man, it's an accomplishment, and very proud of my team.
I'll tell you what, the team's doing a great job. So Phil Schuler and Todd Okahara really have that thing down, and obviously you're doing a good job driving it. But what happened first round there, man? You got a little bit of a lucky break, and sometimes that lucky break is just what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you always say that you need a little bit of luck on race day, and I think we used up all of our luck that first round, so we definitely had to earn the rest. And we had some tough competitors running Antron second round, and Brittany in the semis, and JR in the final. It was a tough road. But, yeah, in that first round, you really don't ever go up there with the mentality of seeing a red light or, wanting a red light or anything like that. The odds of it happening are very slim. So when it happened, I hit the gas, and out of my peripheral, I had seen the red light come on his side, but it didn't really dawn on me because I'm going through all my own stuff, and I hit the gas, and it goes out there and just kind of starts to plant the tire, starts chopping real hard, and goes up in smoke. And about the time when I lifted, it all kind of sank in. It was just like, ooh, we got lucky there.
Yeah, and at that point, there's no point of obviously pushing it. Drivers will always tell you, hey, on Sunday, I'm going to keep my foot in it until I know that I'm beat. But at least in this case, you knew that you had that round win and it didn't need to jump back on it. But was there something in the back of your mind that said, oh, I need to burp it or breathe it and try to pedal it? Or were you pretty much set on after it settled down that all you needed to do was coast?
Yeah, I mean, there's really no point in getting back in it at that point of blowing the tires off that early into a run, because even in the best case scenario, if I were to catch it perfectly and pedal it perfectly and get it to recover and go down and not start dropping a bunch of cylinders after it does all that, I mean, I could probably get the thing to go at 430, 440 at best. So, knowing that kind of in the back of your mind, knowing that we would have more than likely we would have Antron in the following round, more than likely he's already going to have lane choice. So at that point, and in Norwalk, the lanes were pretty evenly matched. It was really, we kind of went back and forth from the right lane to the left lane. It was all starting line based was our final decision. Once you kind of got off the starting line, we felt like the right lane might have been a little bit better, just a couple less bumps. But we felt very confident that we could make a good run in either lane. So, yeah, there was really no second guess on my part to get back in it. And, by the end of when you do that, you're going to end up tearing up so many parts, and it's going to end up costing you some money. So it's as a driver, you try to do all the right things to keep that job security rolling.
Shawn, Marty and I were talking a little bit earlier about the momentum that you get from winning a race and how that kind of brings your team up and just gives you the enthusiasm to go and win another race. And that seems like it's exactly what happened to you and your team going into Norwalk. You come off that win and you're up high and the car's running good and everybody did their job and bam, there you got it again.
When you hear the click, that's usually not good. One of the things that I'll be curious when we get him back on the telephone. He talked about using up all his luck, and I'm not sure if maybe that they didn't have some luck banked. Because once they and we've got Shawn back on the phone, and go ahead with your question, and then I'll go with mine.
Shawn, so Marty and I were talking about it earlier. As you come off a win and your team, just it amps your team up. You're enthused and the excitement is so high and everybody's so pumped up. You go into that next race, it's kind of like your chest is puffed out and you got a little bit of something extra for everybody, and then you go down there and you rack another win out. I mean. Is that I don't know what the right word is. It's just the enthusiasm that goes into the second race and that momentum that carries over, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I believe a lot of it is just the confidence from the crew chiefs as far as how hard they can push the car, and we feel right now that we can push the car pretty hard, and we can kind of have a top 3 car, to where the beginning of the year, we really couldn't get down the track much. It was more of a coin flip. Well, then, if it was going to smoke the tires or not, well, then it turned into where we're making runs down the track, but we were only probably 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th quick, and we just didn't have the confidence to push the car. We were more worried about getting the data and information than we were trying to push it. So now that we have that confidence built up, we can start to push it a little bit harder, see a little bit better results. And now that I feel like we have a good car, now we're to the point where we start to put a little bit of pressure on the other teams, where they'll see some of our runs and they'll start pushing their tune-up and, push them to the limit of, either making a great run or smoking the tires. So, it's just that continuous confidence builder, and especially, for me as a driver as well, after making the mistake in Epping, red lighting up there, going into Englishtown, going to the semifinals, then going the last 2 races winning, my confidence level is skyrocketed. So I feel good on the starting line, feel like I can hit the tree good, and I think it's just a trickle effect from top to bottom when that confidence gets going.
You talked last week about being the maybe the team that was on the bad end of a lot of bad luck. Being the one that ended up being the victim of the monster runs by certain teams, and you mentioned that maybe you had your luck banked from that first round. It seems like that maybe you've been banking some of that bad luck into good luck, because now you guys seem like you're the ones that are sending the teams home that are having fairly good rounds, and then come up against your red fuel team and end up on the trailer at the end of the day.
Yeah, drag racing is just a full circle sport. What goes around comes around.
Yeah.
So, you really can't hang your head when you have bad luck, because it's just part of drag racing. It's going to come back around, and you just hope that the good luck comes around at the right time of when you need it. So there's a lot of things about drag racing that you can't let the lows get you down, but you can't sit there and just pat yourselves on the back on the highs. You just got to continuously keep working, and the results are going to end up how they are. You just got to work your butt off and keep that mentality and continue to put in your best effort. And at the end of the day, you can only do so much, really.
Hey, Shawn, for anybody that doesn't realize what the Red Fuel by Schumacher is, it's battery charging components and stuff. Tell us a little bit about that, and where do customers go to find those things?
Well, it's lithium battery packs that you can charge basically anything from your iPhone to tablets. They're actually coming out with a line right now where you can also charge your phone with the same unit that you can start your car with. So they're continuing. In this day and age, cell phones and tablets are everything. So you keep them in your pocket. They're about phone size, and you can go on to Schumacher Electric's website and purchase those, or you can go on to our shoe racing page and purchase all the Red Fuel products. But man, I'm telling you, I have a couple of them with me at all times because you just you just never know when that phone's going to die and when you need it.
Well, Shawn Langdon, driver of the Schumacher Red Fuel Top Fuel Dragster and winner last weekend in Norwalk. Congratulations and good luck here coming up at Chicago in the Western Swing.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate you having me on.
2013 Top Fuel champion Shawn Langdon joining us on the Straight Line. And when we return, we'll wrap up another great edition of the show.
This is The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. More coming up right after this. Join the Motor Racing Network every Tuesday night for NASCAR Live. Get the latest news and exclusive interviews from the biggest names in the sport.
One thing, don't take yourself too seriously. Don't worry about people judging and just...
Hear the thoughts and opinions from NASCAR insiders.
Look at what he's been able to do with the Wood Brothers since they returned to full-time competition this year. Now, obviously...
It's NASCAR Live every Tuesday evening at 7 Eastern on the Motor Racing Network.
Missed the race this weekend?
Danica Patrick is up in flames. Home Menard will crash.
Or just want to relive the best moments?
That was an amazing finish.
Catch all of the action and highlights right here.
Jimmy Johnson gets nailed, and it's a big one.
It's the Sprint Cup replay getting you on the fast track to victory lane.
Woo! Good job, good job. Kansas, yes.
Don't be left out of the conversation Monday at work. Listen to the Sprint Cup replay on MRN.com Mondays at 7 a.m. and 1 p.m.
If you have a question or comment about NASCAR, Motor Racing Network has a direct line for you. It's the Fan Forum Hotline.
I'm a newbie to this sport just this year, and I wanted to know...
I was wondering when they measure the length of a racetrack.
Call in at 844-4-ASK-MRN. That's 844-4-ASK-MRN.
Just wanted to send out a big shout-out and thanks for covering the race.
The Fan Forum Hotline, your connection to NASCAR.
Welcome back to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here's more with Marty Huff and Doug Herbert.
Thanks to Ron Capps, Eddie Krawiec, and Shawn Langdon for joining us on The Straight Line. Hey, next week, The Straight Line, the fastest hour in motorsports, will be even faster. Beginning next Thursday, we'll be bringing you all the same guests and all the same commentary, but in just half the time. Beginning next week, the Straight Line is moving to 30 minutes, so you can more easily enjoy great sport of drag racing. Hey, they only run for 3 seconds at a time. We're running it in 30.
It's hard to keep my attention for an hour, so that's good. We have
exactly
a half hour. We're going to be able to keep more people's attention, and hopefully more people will be able to tune in for the entire show.
And so the good news is next week we're going to 30 minutes. Bad news is that we lose you for a couple of shows. There's a good news, bad news scenario in that. Because
I'll be calling in. I'll be here at every show. I'll be doing my homework and keeping up on everything NHRA drag racing wise. So we'll be able to give everybody the inside scoop on the Straight Line.
But the good news is that the reason that you're going to be gone is that you have a month's worth of break schools in the state of California. I mean, that is awesome news.
Yeah, this month of July is going to be really busy for us out in California. We've got schools in Pomona, Fontana, San Diego, Orange County area. We've got a lot of things going on, so we're really happy about that. Excited that we're going to be out there and doing a little bit of Southern California hot rodding, probably hopefully meet up with our friends at the NHRA Museum and probably make a trip out to the NHRA, the deal out there at the NHRA headquarters in Glendora as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you'll probably catch up at some point with Del Worsham. You'll be over at your mom's and be able to catch up with Del Worsham just down the street.
Yep, Del Worsham and I are going out to dinner with our families one night at our favorite place, which is Orange Hill Restaurant in the city of Orange, so that'll be fun. I can't figure out who else I'm checking up with, but catching up with a bunch of our drag racing buddies out in Southern California.
Hey, also want to remind you about the O'Reilly Shredder and where it's going to be next week, coming off the holiday. On Tuesday, you can see it in Davenport and in Rock Island, and then back in Davenport for a couple of days. You can see all of the places that it's going to be in Iowa and also Wisconsin. coming up here in the next couple of days. The O'Reilly Shredder full-size NASCAR test car right there, and you can check them out at various places in Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, all over the place. Want to thank also Ron Capps, Eddie Krawiec, and Shawn Langdon for joining us on today's show. So for everybody involved, for Doug, for Robbie Mays, for Daryl, I am Marty. We will see you next week for 30 minutes right here on The Straight Line on MRN.com.
You've been listening to The Straight Line, presented by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Tune in again next Thursday at noon Eastern on MotorRacingNetwork.com and the MRN app. The Straight Line is the show for drag racing fans and is brought to you by Hercules Tires. This program is also available on demand at the MRN.com Media Center, or you can download it through iTunes or Stitcher. The Straight Line is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.